We're here again with former AP newsman Bryant Thomas, who is not too happy about all the coverage that Trump's address to the troops after the battle was given today. How come that doesn't sit well with you, Bryant?
Well, I think it's nothing more than a free campaign ad. And, if you think back to what Bill Clinton did after he was acquitted in the late 90s, he had a brief statement to the press in which he apologized for his actions. And that was it. It didn't go on for an hour and a half as a political diatribe, which is what you saw today.
But very effective for the Trump supporters. I mean, he's a showman, and he knows how to glad hand. He knows how to rally the troops and keep them active and on his side, does he not?
Well, there's no question about that. The issue is whether the media should be a part of that and not make money on it. If they wanted to do this as a paid campaign event, fine, buy the time. But don't expect hard news coverage to fall into the trap of giving this guy 90 minutes worth of free campaign coverage.
Well, what about the argument that it is an historic event, and after a president's been exonerated, he wants to make a statement, it should be covered. It is news.
That's fine. Make the statement and be done with it. Don't turn it into a campaign orgy that lasts 90 minutes and just belittles everybody who ever dared to criticize him. That's not appropriate.
Well, it also, that same kind of charge that it was a campaign spot was applied by his critics to his speech the previous night, the State of the Union. Do you see it the same way?
Well, the State of the Union was nothing more than his campaign opening. That was simple to figure out. He didn't give a description of the State of the Union. He gave a description of Donald Trump's candidacy. And it was very easy to figure that out. If you were an objective viewer, if you were a Trump person, you were a Trumper, you were looking this up.
What about the insults and the criticisms flying back and forth applied to both sides, that Nancy Pelosi was being very petty and disrespectful, tearing up Trump's speech, obviously for the cameras at the end of his State of the Union address, and that Trump may have started off that tit for tat by not shaking the hand that Pelosi offered. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that he set the stage for that kind of reaction. That's typically Trump. That's not unusual. We know that. He reacts like that. And I think she was perhaps, well, I don't want to say inappropriate. It wasn't inappropriate that she tore up the speech. I think she was frustrated. The fact that the acquittal was going to come the following day, and that there was a lot of things that went on in that whole process that were ignored by the Republicans. Keep in mind, half the Republicans said, yes, Trump did something wrong, and still they weren't ready to kick him out. That doesn't make any sense. If he did something wrong and he's up for those charges in an impeachment, you vote to get rid of him. You don't say, oh no, we can excuse this behavior. Nonsense.
Well, Republican critics of what you'd say would point out that Clinton was not removed and he lied under oath. Clearly a criminal act.
But not related to anything he did in office. That's the difference. He lied about a sex act with a woman in the Oval Office. He did not lie about what he did in office in an official capacity. That's the big difference.
So although it was unseemly of President Clinton to be serviced by Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office, that act in terms of morality and distastefulness wasn't enough to rise to the level of impeachment or removal of a president.
Oh, of course not. Of course not. They were out to get Clinton from the day he took office. Right. There was no question about that. When he defeated Bush 41 in 1992, they went nuts. The Republicans thought they had some divine right to the West Wing. And Clinton stuffed that in their nose twice. And that's what they never got over. So when when they couldn't find anything with Whitewater, and don't forget, the Whitewater thing was ending without anything at all, and then Ken Starr stumbled on Monica Lewinsky, and that's what led to the impeachment.
But can't the same argument be applied, the same criticism be applied now to the Democrats who've been trying to impeach him from day one? And, that they tried the Russiagate collusion, that fell flat. The Mueller report fell flat. So finally, let's impeach the guy since we can't beat him. So can't you apply that same type of criticism to what the Democrats have now been doing to Trump?
Look, if the Russia investigation had been full and open, which it was not, you might have seen an impeachment effort occur much more quickly. And don't forget, all of the redactions in the Mueller report are something that we still don't know. And we don't know how much more dirt Robert Mueller really dug up on Trump.
Well, put that aside for now, because there are those who would argue with you, say there wasn't anything there to begin with, or not to the extent that they claim. But, putting that aside, can you deny that the Democrats were not out to get Trump from day one?
Well, a certain number of Democrats were out to get him from day one. There's no question about that. But don't forget, it was a hard sell to get to the impeachment level, even among Democrats. Mm-hmm. Think about how long it took to get to 224 votes. Took a long time to get all those people on board. And only when they realized that there was a lot of dirt here and a lot of smoke was that there was cause to believe that there was also fire.
Well, Pelosi didn't even want to impeach, from my understanding, but she was pressured by the more radical wing, progressive wing of her own party. But she did it against her best judgment.
Well, I think initially, I think that's true. I think she was not a favorite of this effort, knowing that there would be political casualties involved in it. Now, it's early enough in this whole campaign so that the damage to the party, as long as they refocus on talking to voters about what's on the voters' minds, that they may be able to forestall any long-term damage with this. But, who knows? The polls that are going to be taken right after all of this is concluded, in terms of the 4 states that are up for early primaries and caucuses, are going to determine more of where we stand, Democrat versus Republican, than anything else.
So wrapping up now, you don't necessarily see this then as an ill-advised move by the Democrats to try to remove the president of the United States. You don't think that in the big picture, it was really a loss for the Democrats going into the 2020 election?
No, I don't think it's a loss at all. I think if you think Trump was bad before in terms of being brassy and brazen about what he was going to do in office, just wait. Just wait for the next chapter.
All right. So since the impeachment and removal failed, will he really be any more? Will he behave any better in the second term, having gone through an impeachment, or is it pretty much it'll be the same thing?
Well, look at what he did Thursday in the White House. If that's any indication of what he's going to be like on the campaign trail, hold on to your hat.
So therefore, it was of no benefit to the Democrats to go through this impeachment process. It was futile, and if anything, if it hasn't damaged the Democrats going into 2020 election, at least it hasn't given them any boost. Would you agree with that?
No, I'm not sure that it hasn't given them a boost. 75% of the people wanted witnesses, keep in mind, in the polling that preceded his acquittal, and in the vote that prevented those witnesses from being called. That's a big chunk of the electorate. And a lot of that chunk was also Republicans who wanted to hear from witnesses. So I'm not so sure that this is a mistake for the Democrats at all. If those people can be shown in the months that follow that Bolton had something to say, and it was short-circuited by the Republican vote in the Senate not to have witnesses, then that changes everything.
All right, Brian, you're talking to me from New Hampshire. What's your sense of the word on the street or campaign signs, or do you sense any type of swelling of support for one candidate over the other? Any advantages, disadvantages? What's your sense of the electorate sitting there as you are literally in the state of New Hampshire?
Well, I think that Trump's base of support here is solid. It always has been. It's 38 to 44%, depending upon which poll you're looking at. Is there a Democrat who can come along in this purple state and knock Trump off? Perhaps. But it's not going to be easy, no matter who the candidate is. It's just like it's not going to be easy for the Democrats to maintain their edge in the House. They did it in 2018 because they made a pitch for health care, and it worked. The ground game worked. And Trump was not on the ballot then, which made the big difference. This year, Trump was going to be on the ballot. That changes everything.
Bryant Thomas, former AP newsman of the Washington Bureau in Washington, D.C., thanks once again for being with us.
Okay.